That's right. Welcome in. Welcome back, folks. Court is back in session. It is not Judge Judy. It is Judge Johnny. Case number 2 on the docket is, would joining the Big Ten be good for Notre Dame? This case is relevant in the media, given some of the recent rumors about Notre Dame to the Big Ten that are heating up behind the scenes, allegedly. This court's got to be careful about what's a fact and what is alleged. Allegedly. And it is time to examine the evidence, go through the depositions, and the subpoena responses from all parties involved and get to the bottom of this issue and make a final ruling. Again, the rulings are final. This is an official court. Would joining the Big Ten be good for the Irish? Let's examine some of the evidentiary findings on the yes side of the argument. Number 1, if Notre Dame joined the Big Ten, they would be in a power position and be included in one of the two groups that's making apparently all of the decisions about what happens with the playoff moving forward. This is a pretty good piece of evidence because it is true. The Big Ten and the SEC seem to be driving all of the big decisions made. And it doesn't even really seem like there's a lot of pushback on that. It seems like everybody else in the room is just like, from what I'm reading in the evidence files, it feels to me like everybody else has bent a knee and been like, yeah, you guys are the two most powerful. We'll let you drive the ship. So if Notre Dame joined the Big Ten, they would be in a power position, included in one of those groups that has the most money, the most sway, the most power. You get it. Piece of evidence number 2 on the pro side that says this would be good for Notre Dame. Whatever happens in the playoff moving forward and whatever the rules are, whatever, you would benefit from that in the expanded playoff with access. You would not be an independent outlier. You would get the benefit of a bye if that's still a thing in the ongoing formats. And even if it isn't, the Big Ten and the SEC are pushing for 4 or 5 teams guaranteed every year, no matter what their record. Notre Dame would be eligible to be in that mix. So there's some access stuff with the playoff there that I think could be beneficial. Number 3, the schedule would just be way more compelling. Way more compelling. And I don't really see any evidence on the other side that can refute this. Look at the back half of 2025 schedule. BC, Navy, Pitt, Syracuse, Stanford is an absolute snooze fest. I know Navy's unique, and I know we hate BC. I don't care. The back half of this schedule after the second off week is an absolute snooze fest. And I'm telling you this, Notre Dame better be in playoff position by the time they hit this stretch, or everybody's going to fall asleep. Awful back half of this schedule. Not compelling, not entertaining, not competitive, just boring. I would much rather play Michigan, Ohio State, Oregon, Michigan State, Penn State, Indiana, Purdue, Nebraska, UCLA, Wisconsin. I live in Illinois. I'd like to play Illinois. Go see Notre Dame playing Champaign. Easier drive for me. Let's not forget about USC. Give me any of what I just said over BC, Navy, Pitt, Syracuse, Stanford any day. So those are some pieces of evidence on the pro side that say this would be good for Notre Dame. Let's move to some evidence of why this would be a bad move for Notre Dame. Number 1, there's this little issue people are going to have with, giving up your entire history, surrendering your entire existential existence in the college football landscape. Yeah, that's kind of a big deal and a negative on the ledger here. And let's be very clear, that's what you would be doing. That's a tough piece of evidence to overcome. Number two, on the negative side, that this would suck, being like everybody else is just kind of lame. Like being in the group with everybody else, doing what everybody else does, like that's just like lame. We're so used to doing our own thing and being the outlier, it would just seem kind of lame. Number three, on the downside, you would then have less autonomy once you're in one of these big groups to be able to make your own decisions. No longer could Notre Dame negotiate their own TV deal and do this and do that and create a schedule they want and blend with the ACC, whatever. You would be giving up your flexibility to make autonomous decisions once you're in that group. So we've looked at evidence on both sides. There's three bullet points here as far as this would be good for Notre Dame. And then there's three of why it would be bad for Notre Dame. And the number one piece of evidence I consider on the downside is the whole you're giving up your entire existence in history. That's a big deal. The evidence is in. We've cross-examined both sides. We went through all of the case files, and I think it's time to make a ruling. Yes, joining the Big Ten would be good for Notre Dame, but I would also hate it at the exact same time. I would enjoy parts of it greatly while hating it existentially. I'd love the schedule. I'd love the power benefits of being in one of the two groups that drives everything. I'd love the Big Ten infrastructure, but I would always hate giving up our history, especially since the reason we're not already in the Big Ten was based on bigotry and discrimination against immigrants and Catholics. It would feel like you're bending a knee and caving to people that hate who we are and the values we've always stood for. That feels sickening. But you got to be honest with yourself and acknowledge every sign and arrow points to this happening. Every single thing you can analyze about this, the sign points Notre Dame in a funnel towards joining the Big Ten. Money, power, the playoff, TV, it all points Notre Dame towards the Big Ten. And I suspect some of this is already happening and some of it's going to happen more. These groups in power, the two big ones, they're going to lose patience with ND and the independence thing and making these loopholes for them to make the playoff or whatever. I think these groups are going to tighten the vice and make it harder for Notre Dame over time to survive in this environment independently. Whether it's direct, spoken, or non-spoken, I think those two groups in power, the Big Ten and the SEC, are going to tighten the vice. And whenever they come up with new rules or whatever for the CFP, try and make it harder for Notre Dame to live this way. With scheduling, with the oops you got to do to make it, whatever, I guarantee a lot of people are pissed off that Notre Dame made the playoff run they had. I think a lot of people are thinking them not being able to get a bye is really going to hurt them. They got to have to play 4 games or whatever, and Notre Dame succeeded in that model. I think these groups are going to go out of their way to make it harder for Notre Dame to do things independently moving forward. So that's the court's ruling. Yes, it would be good for Notre Dame for all the reasons I mentioned, long-term stability, money, power, TV, all this stuff. But I'm going to hate it. I'm going to hate it. I'm going to enjoy that schedule way more than the ones we have now, and I'm going to hate myself for enjoying it at the exact same time. I have said this for years, and I'm going to say it again. If I wake up someday and I look at my phone and there's a million texts and tweets about Notre Dame's joining the Big Ten, I will not be surprised, not even 1%. We're so far down the road, and I just kind of see where this is headed. If I ever wake up to that news, I will not be like, oh my gosh, I can't believe it. No, I've been waiting for that shoe to drop again. All of the signs and things you would want to look at about this point one direction, and Notre Dame swimming against the stream the other way. And I just don't know if that's sustainable forever. Not because we don't know how to navigate and to make it work on our own, but I think these power players are going to increasingly make it harder for Notre Dame to survive, thrive, make a bunch of money, and do everything independently. I just think they're going to make it hard. So that's my ruling, folks. Yes, it would be good for Notre Dame, but I will hate myself at the same time. That is my ruling. You don't have to like it, but I think the evidence is pretty compelling that, like, the elephant's in the room, and this is kind of where I think this is all headed. So that's my ruling. But the whole bullet point of giving up your entire history and existentially who you've been will eat at me till the minute I croak in this basement, in this studio. It'd be good for Notre Dame, but I'd hate it at the same time. That's my ruling, and it is final. Court is out of session. Don't forget to check out the merchandise. The link is in the description. You can browse and carouse all the different Always Irish gear. Make sure you head over there and get something for the next tailgate. Thanks for being here.